Welcome to Generally Speaking, the off-season edition. I'm your host, Angelo Fioris, also known as at NJ_Generals on Twitter, part of the USFL Today. Follow me and the at USFL Today account on Twitter for all the news, notes, and information about the USFL. No one covers the USFL like the USFL Today. All right, Generals fans, keeping in this off-season theme of bringing on a bunch of different players, I'm really happy to bring on my next guest. I've been trying to get him for a couple of months now. He is the Generals punter, Mr. Brock Miller. Brock, welcome to Generally Speaking. How you doing?
Angelo, I'm great, man. Sorry it's taken so long to get connected, but excited to be on. You do a great job. Dig all the content you put out, and yeah, man, happy to be on. So thanks for having me.
Oh man, I'm happy to have you on. You were an important part of the Generals' success during this year, especially during some of those games when field position and the trading of that real estate became an important factor in the game storyline. And you're also the team's holder too. So you were an important factor on a lot of different moving parts of the game. What's that like, having a couple different roles?
A lot of, especially as a holder, these are kind of things that, totally get overlooked, but it's important, man. To be, with me and Scott Flanick, our long snapper, to be perfect for who we got kicking the ball is, there's a lot of work that goes into that, and obviously, of course, the punting on top of that. We our unit works really hard before and after practice, and obviously the team periods. It's like it's we take pride in it and work hard at it, and then show up on game day and do our job. And I think across the board, it was pretty smooth sailing for the year, and excited to be back and even tighten the screws more for next season. So, but there's a lot that goes into it, and not a lot of people know about it. So, but we take pride in it for sure.
There's no question that there's a lot that goes into it. And I've had a chance now. You mentioned Scott Flanick. I've had a chance to speak with Scott on a couple of different occasions now, and he raves about your ability as a holder. He calls you the best holder in the league, and that is not small praise, that's for sure.
No, you got to take pride in it. And, believe it or not, it's not something that comes easy for a lot of people. There's, hitting the spot, getting the laces, catching the ball the right way, and just having it. We had a couple of different kickers this last season too, and every guy likes it a little bit different. And it's just flat out putting the time in, being disciplined. And for me, I love doing it. It sounds stupid, holding. Obviously punting's. I enjoy punting a little bit more, but it's so important, and not everyone can do it. So the more you can do, the better. And yeah, so. Not easy though all the time. I gotta say.
So let me ask you. You mentioned about how every kicker kind of likes it a little bit different, and the Generals had their issues with the kicking game this year, and three different kickers came through.
Right.
So
right.
What's that like with the adjustments every 3-4 weeks? It felt like you were breaking in a new guy.
Yeah, that's hard for sure because especially with our season, it was a really quick ramp up time as opposed to the NFL or some of these other leagues. Kicking off the USFL, we really I want to say it was maybe 3 weeks or 2.5 weeks that we had not just us, but the offense and defense, where you're building a roster from scratch and then throwing guys out for 2 weeks of practice before we're hitting the field on a game day. It's kind of hard to get that chemistry super, super dialed. Whereas like you look at the NFL, they're in the buildings in April working, snap, hold, kick from April until the preseason in August, which is such a long ramp up time. And, that sounds like a lot of time to get a work of placing the ball down the right way. But, all those reps just add up. And when it's, I think we saw it, not only with us, but across the league, it was a little bit of a hiccup for the first couple of weeks of the league. Just having a different snapper, different holder, different kicker coming together for the first time can present some challenges. So, it definitely got ironed out as we went along, and all three kickers that we had were outstanding. It's just, at the end of the day, it's hard to do day in, day out, week in, week out. And, excited to move forward with who we have with Caden Novikov. We've gotten together a little bit over the off season to get polished up, and I think we're going to have a great unit next year. So.
Oh yeah, you guys have been working out together in this off season.
Yeah, not as much as I would have liked to. I've had a lot of been traveling a lot for various NFL workouts, and then just trying to make ends meet at home, working several different odd jobs to just kind of pay the bills. As the new year gets closer, January, and then as we get closer to March and report date for USFL season 2, Caden and I, and then Scott, we plan to really tighten the screws. That way, by the time we do get out to training camp, we're already, one step ahead, further along than where we were last year with that short ramp up time. So that's the plan. But Caden and I, we're doing our thing even if we're not together, and Scott's holding it down too. He's in the Army and he's busy, but he's still grinding. So we'll be dialed and ready to roll when the time comes.
Let's talk about those NFL workouts. You had one the other day with Philadelphia. You had a previous one with, was it Minnesota, you told me?
Yeah, those were back-to-back weeks. It's crazy, man. I mean, those two specifically went really well. Going back a little further, I mean, I had one. I thought I had a real good opportunity. Unfortunately, the Indianapolis Colts punter Rigo Sanchez tore his, not ACL, his Achilles coming out of training camp, and they worked out a bunch of punters. I was there along with 2 other USFL guys. And they ended up going with another NFL vet who had just been released. But I've since this USFL season concluded, I've been to Indy, I've been to Pittsburgh, I've been to Minnesota, Philly, went to the Raiders in Vegas, and then Baltimore as well. So the phone's ringing. I've been doing well. It's so hard to break in as a specialist because they really only carry one punter, one kicker, one snapper, and it's like to have a team make a change, it's like you really gotta blow it out of the water, and their guys really got to be struggling or have some kind of injury, which really just doesn't happen very often for punters especially. So I'm controlling what I can control at these workouts. I feel like I'm doing really well. I've had outstanding feedback from a lot of coaches that have been in the NFL for a long time, and obviously that's the ultimate goal, but at the same time I can't wait to get back with Coach Riley and our whole staff. So it's a win-win, really, from where I'm at right now.
Sure. And you're getting all that exposure in front of the next level of coaches. And
yeah,
like you never know when that call is going to come for next year's training camp.
Right. When you get, even if you just get brought in for a workout, it goes out on that wire every day to teams. And so I think some teams who've never seen me before have seen my name go across now like several times and starting to maybe get some traction with some new teams. And it's just, plugging away.
Before we talk about next season and getting back there with Coach Riley, which everyone's psyched to do, I really love hearing that from all you guys. Yeah. Let's talk about last season for 1 second. Okay. And I'm going to,
sure.
First thing I'm going to say is you had the second longest kick I've ever seen in my lifetime. And I say that with a little tongue in cheek because I was born the day after the NFL record 98-yard punt was kicked. And so I just missed seeing that one, I guess, in a sense, by a day. And the only other longer punt I've ever seen than yours, Mr. Brock Miller, in my lifetime was kicked by Randall Cunningham.
Yes, I know exactly that clip Buffalo that you're talking about, which is just absurd because he wasn't even a punter, and that just makes it that much more mind-blowing. And that's, I don't know if that'll ever be topped by, even a regular punter. It's just so crazy it's not crazy that that's still standing because it's absurd, but it was I was super pleased with that moment. Week 10 at Philly, I was right off my foot. I knew that thing was like shot out of a cannon, had a little bit of a tailwind, caught it perfectly clean off a great snap. And there's, that's every punter's dream. Only other better thing is that was, could have gone inside the 10, but when you're flipping the field like that, it's, I really feel like I'm part of the defense, when a ball like that comes off your foot. So that's the dream for a punter, right? Because we're not scoring touchdowns or anything like that.
Yeah. And that was a heck of a kick. And you really did have a great season. Your average was around 46 yards. I think a little bit more than that. And really the team couldn't ask for much more out of you. Throwing in the holding responsibilities and adjusting to multiple kickers throughout the year, you proved yourself to be pretty reliable, much like Scott was too. So, looking forward for next year then.
There's so much to look forward to. I mean, just our teammates alone, the locker room. I mean, we obviously fell short in the playoffs, and I put that on my shoulders. Scott and I and our protection unit, we really prided ourselves on minimal return yards and not getting any blocked, and then essentially ended our season with a punt return touchdown. Maurice Alexander, who's an absolute freak. I don't want to take anything away from him, but I didn't hit my best ball. And so that sort of left a sour taste in my mouth to kind of end the season that way. And I really take full responsibility for our loss, really, on that. But it's made me so hungry moving forward in my own preparation, and I learned so much this year going into next year. I got a whole list of goals written down of what I want to accomplish going into next season, and I'm counting the days, to say the least, to get back out there. So
that is a heavy burden to put on yourself, Brock, to take full responsibility for that loss, man. I mean, a lot of things went wrong on that fateful Saturday, not just that last kick. There was a lot of stuff that led up to that. So maybe you're being a little hard on yourself. What do you think?
No, I appreciate that. And, that's what everybody said. Everyone is taking their own responsibilities. And I think, even Coach Riley, we spent some time after we landed after the game back in Birmingham that said, we all kind of picked a bad day to have a bad day. Coach was saying he didn't call his best plays. We didn't necessarily have the right things installed. We should have, this, that, the other, but that's football. And as long as you correct it and move forward, you can't ask for anything else. But again, I think we all learned a lot from the whole season, and it was just a frustrating ending, especially having beat Philly twice already in the regular season, and that they get one win against us, and that's the one for essentially moving on, and that's tough. So, but I know we'll be back better than ever next year, and just really can't wait. So,
yeah, the entire team has that same mindset and focus going into this upcoming training camp, which is coming
no
quick
question.
Before you know it, right? Before
it
you
really
know
is. Yeah, it's right around the corner. It really is. So excited.
I was reading up on you. You're a California guy.
Yes.
Solana, right?
That's correct. And Solana Beach. Yep, I'm here right now looking at the 70-degree weather outside. So
believe it or not, I'm at the New Jersey shore right now, and it is 70 degrees here today, and it's November 12th.
Yeah, going back to the last two workouts, like Minnesota and Philly both were mid 60s when I was there, and I'm going, this is way too good to be true. Yeah. So I'm like, I'm happy I'm here right now, and it's not 15 degrees or something like that, but I couldn't believe it. So
you played your high school ball at Santa Fe Christian.
Yes.
Tell me who your head coach was there.
Brian Sipe. Yes.
The Generals quarterback in 1984.
Yeah, I tried to get this. I think I told Riley and maybe one or two other media personnel that was around the hotel during the season. There's a great, I think it's I want to say I saw it on eBay or something. There's a trading card with Brian Sipe, with the General's helmet dropping back to pass that I saw, and it's just like, this is so crazy how things can come, that full circle. Is just insane. Because he was a great coach. He helped me with some recruiting and stuff like that. I really wanted to play for him. He left my senior year of high school as I was graduating. He ended up going back to his alma mater at San Diego State, and I was going to walk on there, and it didn't quite work out numbers wise. But essentially, what is it? 10 years later,
wow.
The USFL reboot, to the same team. I got to look at what number he was. I think he was 17. Yeah. So I was like, you know what? I would be really crazy if we were wearing the same jersey, but there was a really cool little thing. Yeah. That kind of happened. I'm surprised he brought that up. That's rad.
Yeah. I'm a bit of an old school Generals fan. You could see up above me there.
Yeah. I dig it. I dig it.
So, I was around when the Generals signed him, and I remember them getting Brian Sipe, and I was pretty psyched. The guy was an NFL MVP in 1980. And he had a good season for New Jersey before he got traded off, and they got Doug Flutie.
Yeah, and he was a Cleveland Browns legend, I want to say. I mean, I don't quote me on any of the Browns, Cleveland Browns history, but he was the stud there for a few years, and learned a lot from him in high school. It was very cool experience.
Yeah, some of my earliest football memories are of him and the Cardiac Kids
That's it. Yep.
falling just short against Oakland in the 1980 championship game in the freezing cold in Cleveland. Pretty wild
Pretty
stuff.
wild. Yeah, he
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
really ever talk to us too much about that, us high schoolers. I think, that was a memory that he probably wanted to to
You don't
bury
want to.
down.
You don't want to hear that story.
Yeah, no, they're just so brutal. But he was a great player and a great coach. So
Yeah, and kicking problems actually did them in that day. As a matter of
mhm.
fact, yeah,
I vaguely remember seeing that and hearing about that. With that being an issue, that moving the football, not being able to put points on the board when they're getting in field goal range. It was a tough,
yeah, yeah,
cold
yeah.
day. So
Uh, so you when you were in school, you played all the positions. You were a kicker, you were a punter, you did the place kicking as well. So
yes,
tell me about that because these are all different techniques. Even though kicking is kicking, kicking's not
right.
just kicking. So
Hmm.
share with us some of those nuanced differences that the layperson has no idea about.
Right. Yeah. So I actually, going into before high school, I never played tackle football. I was like a receiver, but I was really small. To be quite honest, I was a little scared to put pads on for the first time and get hit. And I was like, you know what? I was like 120 pounds, or not even, as a freshman. And I was like, all my friends are playing, they're going out for the high school team. How can I be on the team and not get killed? And so I didn't really have a soccer background or anything. I just put a ball on the tee and started kicking really before I started punting. And I was like, you know what? I think I could get good at this if I kept practicing. And I just, for whatever reason, I really wasn't that good to start, but I really just had so much fun, like trying to just move the ball back each yard and just trying to inch that thing over the goalpost to start. And so my goal, when I first started out, was to be the JV starting, kicker. And I always wanted to be a kicker first. That was my priority. And I had a coach growing up named Lance Ortega. He actually coaches kids still here in San Diego, who said, look, the kicking, make it your priority, but you need to know how to punt. I mean, especially if, down the line you want to get recruited to play in college, you got to have a punting background as well. And I was like, no, kickers get all the glory, these game winning field goals. I don't really want to worry about that. But he forced me to continue to punt. And sure enough, I got recruited as a kicker to Southern Utah. I place kicked my freshman year of college. Then they recruited a semi-pro soccer player, kind of similar story to like Brandon Aubrey with the Stallions. This kid was just a soccer superstar, had never used his college eligibility. They recruited him because he was a Utah kid. He came in and blew me out of the water kicking wise, but he had absolutely no business punting, like holding the ball and kicking it out of his hand. He just couldn't do it. And sure enough, I made the transition midway through college, having been a kicker my whole life, to punting, and my punting just took off. Whereas I feel like my place kicking and kickoffs sort of hit a plateau when I got to college. The punting just continued to exponentially improve, and thank goodness, because I don't think I would have never had a sniff as a pro kicker, but the punting just sort of took to it and became kind of the thing. And so here we are now, however many years later. It's a totally different swing though, like you said. Punting is so linear, kicking is so hip related, and whipping through the ball kind of sideways at an angle.
Hmm.
It's totally different, and that's why they really only have college guys will do both sometimes, but pro level, it's like it's such a different discipline. They just really want one guy doing each. But that was kind of the background story of how I got to punting.
How much is there to the whole laces out thing?
It's everything. I mean, not only laces out, but if you're on the right hash, you don't want the left hash. You don't want the laces pointed directly straight down the hash marks, because then that's pointed outside the upright. So if you're in the middle of the field on an extra point, you want them pointed straight. But if you're on the right hash, you want them pointed slightly left towards that gooseneck. And it's like, then on top of that, you got wind, and so your kicker's trying to, hey, a little more lean. let's get the laces this way more so because it's blowing right to left. And all that's going to happen in 1.3 seconds. Catching the snap and then putting it in the right spot and doing all that. It's just, it's everything. And then it's a game of inches. And that's why you see it on Sundays in the NFL too. It's very rarely there's a guy, above 90% or 85%. It's tough.
That sounded just now what you described like a combination, like geometry physics exam right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
That didn't sound like football or sports to me. a lot of
it's so much.
A lot of thinking and technique goes into what you guys do.
Yeah. And then that's so true. But then on Sundays, it's like, you really don't want to have to think too much. It's like, you want to think about it during the week and correct the mechanical stuff. And then on game day, just be able to kind of check your mind at the door and just go let it rip. But that just takes reps to get to that point, because you can't fake your way through, that mindset, so to speak.
You're like me. You're a lefty. Advantage
Yes.
or disadvantage? It's a rarity in the punting game. Advantage for you because the ball comes off your foot different?
Absolutely. That's been a huge reason I've been getting these workouts. For example, like the Raiders, I think, they have probably a top 5, if not top 3 best punter in the NFL. And when they brought me in to work out, it was because they had no intention of changing their punter out. It was to essentially, they call it a tryout or a workout. And I'm basically just there to punt to their returners who's playing against a left-footed punter on Sunday. So on the flip side, they help me because they're getting my name out there, but I'm also helping them. It's kind of like this symbiotic relationship we got going. And I've been doing that. I kid you not, I've been doing that for years since I came out of college. I think there was one NFL season where I was a free agent, and I think in a 17-week season, I think I had like 12 tryouts, quote unquote. They were really all for that reason. There was a lot of lefties in the league at that time. And that was, I was kind of the traveling lefty jugs machine. And it's tough for a returner. It's totally mirrored on their perspective on what they're used to seeing like 90% of the time. And you throw wind into the factor with an opposite spin, and all it takes is one muff, and that can really change a game. I think that's why teams value, either having a lefty or, getting their guys comfortable for one. So
that's interesting that you say that, because now that I think about it, and you said you were just in Philadelphia, they're facing a lefty punter on Monday night.
Yeah, there it is.
So there you go.
Yep. That's
something I never would have thought about before this conversation, man.
At this level, it's like they think of every possible advantage, and really crossing the T's, dotting the I's, covering all the bases to make sure that they can do everything it takes to win a game on Sunday, because it's so hard to win games at the pro level. So they'll take it.
Wow, they'll think of any kind of advantage or just expose their guys to the possibilities of what that might look like coming off your foot.
Absolutely. And, I've had days where it's like, I get kind of discouraged sometimes. It's like, well, they're just using me. They're not interested. But on the flip side, I've done this for teams that I think had no intention of, what to expect out of this on my end. And then it's gotten me signed in the past. I go in for a September workout, and then I sign a futures contract with San Francisco in January. And so it's never a bad thing to go into a building, be in front of a staff, and to do well, regardless of, what the reason is. So it's a blessing, being blessed with the left leg as a punter is huge. As a kicker, I think it's a disadvantage to be a left-footed kicker because the holder's facing backwards and isn't used to holding the ball that way. So it's so different.
Wow.
Any lefty kicker out there, my advice to you is stop kicking and start punting.
Here's a question. Going back to something you said a couple minutes ago, where when the semi-pro soccer player came on at school there and took the kicking duties from you, and then your punting soared. Let's say it was the other way around, and they brought in some soccer player who could punt, and they said, now you're just the kicker. Would your kicking have soared because you were concentrating on it, or do you think it was you're better suited for punting?
I don't know, for whatever reason. Again, I think I was pretty good in high school, but again, in high school you can use a 1-inch or 2-inch block to kick off of. And then when I got to college, I had a decent my freshman year when I kicked field goals, I was decent. I think I was like 12 of 17 on field goal attempts. I had like a 50-yard field goal, but I never really figured out how to elevate the ball like I used to, off the ground. And I'm sure I would have figured it out, but if I could go back now, I wouldn't change anything because punting just became so much more natural for me. Again, I think it's just because I didn't have that soccer background,
Right.
which helped me. A lot of soccer guys, when it comes to punting, maybe have some bad habits. It's just it's different with the ball and everything, and so it's interesting though. Yeah, I mean, hindsight's always 2020, but I wouldn't change how things planned out.
What was your major in college?
Exercise science. So, really, I just,
Kinesiology?
exercise phys, yeah, the kinesiology, a little bit of nutrition classes in there, biomechanics, stuff like that. It was, I started out as an education major, wanting to do work with special needs kids, and then ended up realizing that really they didn't really have a major directed towards that path. So I flipped the switch to exercise science just really because as an athlete I thought that was fascinating to me, really not knowing what I wanted to do with it. And to be honest, I still don't know what I want to do after football's done. But it was interesting to me. And I work as a personal trainer part-time here, uh, with that background as well too. So it definitely wasn't a bad thing, and I enjoyed it.
You're an exercise science major and you're a personal trainer now. So here's a question, and just because I'm a
Mm-hmm.
nerd and I'm interested, to be a personal trainer, do you still have to get a certified personal trainer certificate, or does your college degree kind of cover that?
The college degree covers that. When I was first interviewing, I'm basically self-employed now, but when I first moved home, I was like looking at gyms and stuff. And they're like, what kind of cert do you have? And like, well, I have exercise science, 4-year bachelor's degree. And like, oh, okay, you're in because, most people, some of these tests that you can take now are really, you can study for a week and then take a test and, be certified. And so every place I've interviewed has said that that's, more than enough having that bachelor's of science degree. But on the flip side too, I've thought about getting a cert on top of that just because, it looks good. But I'm kind of also transitioning, in the winter months, not a lot of people are wanting to stay in shape as much because it's not summer. So I'm doing a lot of other stuff too. I'm substitute teaching
Oh,
at the high
cool.
school that I went to. I'm subbing at Santa Fe Christian. I valet at a restaurant as well. I actually got to go work the shift tonight. It's just you can only do so many things that are flexible, that pay well, that allow you to leave really at the drop of a hat, for a workout, or just also we got to stay in shape and train. We can't just, last thing I want to do is go home in the off season and sit around and then go, oh, it's February, I better start training again. No, it's like, we all want to improve and come back better than we were the first year. So
Yeah, you're not taking any like time off. You're still going to the gym. You're still
oh
doing your
yeah,
leg workouts. You're still doing your kicking and your stretching and everything else that goes into being prepared as if there's a game tomorrow, right?
exactly. I got all that stuff done already this morning, before we hopped on this call. So we're just,
Nice.
making it work, just planning the weeks. And um, yeah, it's great, but I love it. The grind, quote unquote. It's not really a grind when you love doing it, I say. So
When's the last time you were in New Jersey?
oh man, that's a great question. Probably probably when I was with the Giants on their practice squad in 2018. I think that was the last time. Yeah, I have family on Long Island, and kind of in that neck of the woods. But yeah, that was the last time I've been out there. So I wish we were playing there. It sounds like, I don't know what I'm allowed to say, and I don't know what's true or
I'll
whatnot, but it sounds like we're going to be in the north somewhere for season 2. So hopefully we get some Jersey fans coming out.
That would be great. There wasn't too many that made the trek to Birmingham.
I don't blame them. That's a long way, and Birmingham is Birmingham.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I liked
uh,
it because it was warm. At least kickers and punters. If we can't be in a dome, we at least want warm weather, because when it gets really cold, that ball just doesn't fly as far.
Yeah, that's true. Hey, speaking of the ball not flying far, and I'm going way back now in our conversation, but you talked about the issues in the first couple of weeks of the season and
Yeah.
being the holder, and then also handling the ball on punts as well. Was there a big difference in the ball once that chip was removed?
Yeah, absolutely. It was, it was if you never held one or felt it, it's kind of hard to explain, but it was really a suspended weight that was in the bladder of the ball on one side. And if you weight one side of anything and try to make it go straight, after hitting it with something, like a foot, it's going to be wildly inconsistent and erratic. And I think it was definitely harder on the kicker than it was for the punter. That being said, that week one game, I think I really only had one good punt out of 3 or 4. And the ball issue was just a nightmare for everybody. And it was painful too. If you caught the ball wrong on the wrong side of your foot, guys were getting bruises on their foot through their cleats and stuff like that. So, but it was just really, it was handled really well by Daryl Johnson and USFL personnel when it came to listening to us, really, because the quarterbacks and receivers, it didn't really affect them. They're not hitting the ball, they're guiding it, they're throwing it. So it really wasn't a super issue for them, because they continued to use that chip, I believe, through the rest of the season. And then we just moved to the K balls moving forward. But it was handled well and it was taken care of. They listened to the players and got it ironed out. And then from there, it was smooth sailing, or smoother, so.
Non-football question.
You got it.
What's your favorite food?
Favorite food. I think about food a lot. I would have to go probably a tie between pizza and sushi. Two wildly different things, but we have great sushi in San Diego and a ton of great pizza places. So when I'm trying to cheat on my, clean eating, it's usually between those are my two go-tos.
What's the go-to pizza joint in San Diego?
There's a place up the street from me called Lucadia Pizza. It's a chain. There's a couple of them here, Lucadia. They just have something about their crust. I don't know what they put in it, but I cannot stay away. Austin Jones, who kicked for us for a couple weeks, he's not a San Diego guy, but he comes out here to train with John Carney and a lot of other specialists. And it's like we linked up when he was in town and got some Lucadia, because it's like a garlicky, buttery. I don't know. Their dough is just next level. I love it. But there's really not many bad pizza places here either. I don't know. So.
What's your favorite? You're in the gym. You got the headphones on. What are you listening to?
Okay, so anybody who knows me knows that I am always been the biggest diehard Blink-182 fan. I'm huge into punk rock, pop punk, NoFX, Blink, Pennywise, a lot of just the fast punk rock stuff, Strung Out, all these. It's not a super common genre. I feel like not a lot of people listen to that kind of music, and I like other stuff as well, but I'd say 80% of the time it's some kind of punk rock or alternative rock, and that's what I'm into. So my wife's sick of my Blink-182 stuff. She's like, can we please listen to something else in the car? I'm like, no, sorry. So
what was the last concert you went to?
I'm pretty sure it was Blink. I went and saw a festival. There was a festival up in Long Beach. This was before COVID, though. It was like a year before COVID. And I think that was the last concert I did was them. Yeah. And they're going on tour again. I
saw that.
They got an original member back, and I don't want to go down the whole rabbit hole because this is a football, podcast, but it was like,
right. I asked you. So it's all right.
I was looking at tour dates and I'm going, dang, they're in San Diego and LA and SoCal really in June. And I'm like, oh, shoot, I'll be playing. So hopefully something lines up where if we're Detroit or somewhere that, that I can see them during the season. But if not, it is what it is. I've seen them probably like 5 or 6 times live. So we'll see.
Would you say that's the band you've seen the most live?
Yeah, no question. No question. I haven't been to many other concerts besides them. I don't know. It's like even with food and everything, it's like I find something that I like, and it's like I'm almost not too scared to branch out, but it's just, I'm a creature of habit. For whatever reason,
Hey, if it's working, why change it, right?
Exactly. So
Well, Brock, I got to tell you, man, this was a lot of fun. I'm glad that we finally had a chance to catch up and allow myself and the listeners to get to know you, because it's not often we get to know the punter of the team. Everyone wants to know the quarterback and the defensive end who gets all the sacks.
I don't blame
like
them.
to learn the punter.
I love it. No, I appreciate you having me on, and hope this was entertaining for some listeners. Yeah, because I'm not, the superstar QB like DeAndre or Luis, and not the ball or defensive end or like Toby. I mean, did you have Toby on the show?
Oh yeah, I've had Toby on. He is the best, man. As a matter of fact, I lost a wager to him on the Georgia Tennessee game, and I got to buy that guy dinner now.
Looking at his tweets on when Georgia's playing is just one of my favorite things, because he is passionate, and I think they're going all the way this year. I'm sure he'll tell you the same. So,
he has told me, and he reminded me. He reminded me after they beat my Vols. So what are you gonna do?
Okay, man, that was a game too. That's awesome. That's awesome.
It was a lot of fun. Well, Brock Miller, the Generals punter, it was a lot of fun. Let's definitely stay in touch as we get closer to camp, and then we'll probably run into each other at camp. Thanks for coming.
Absolutely. On, no worries. I will see you out there. Yeah, if you need anything, I'm always around. So thank you again for having me on, and keep the content, the interviews, everything coming. I appreciate all you guys. So
yeah, definitely. And tell your teammates that I'm the guy for them to come talk to.
Okay, you got it. No question. You got it.
Ladies and gentlemen, Brock Miller of the New Jersey Generals. That's it for this edition of Generally Speaking. I hope you enjoyed the show. Next week, we'll have another great guest, somebody in the organization, and I look forward to seeing you all again soon. Thanks for listening.